Our guest is he's getting his hearing test this morning. I've got to admit that when we have the guests in, certain guests have different levels they like on the headsets, and they'll come in and they'll change that. In fact, we've got a couple of guests who turn them down, some turn them up. Cliff Katona joining us in studio. First of all, welcome. I hope that it's not blasting your eardrums out.
Oh, no, Bill, that's fine. Thank you for inviting me. I'm honored to be here.
Number one, we want to point out that you are a candidate for Twin Falls County Sheriff. You are running in a primary, running against the incumbent Tom Carter. Primary is coming up in May, about middle of May, right?
May 17th, yes.
So we're looking at just a couple of months. Candidates don't have a lot of time. Everything's really compressed because everyone is focused on that national presidential primary. And now we've got about 2 months for everyone really to make their final push.
Correct.
You're probably getting a lot of questions too, and I'm sure when you're traveling around. And I know you've been at this a while. I saw your booth at the fair. I've seen you in the parade. It was April last year I saw you in the parade, so you've been running a long time. Probably one of the most common questions you get is, why do you want to do this?
You're correct. I have been doing this a while. I announced my candidacy January 16th of 2015. And the reason I did that is because I knew I had to get out and I wanted to get out and learn what the concerns are of our citizens in Twin Falls County. I retired from law enforcement after 28 years. I retired honorably. I met my points, and I wasn't in a hurry. I was just waiting to see if what would come around. And my daughter, Stephanie, she's a nurse at the hospital. She works OBGYN. She called me and she said, "Dad, the hospital's hiring retired law enforcement officers." And she's, "I think you'd like that." And I thought, "Oh, I might like that." So I went over there, and of course, I got the job, and I worked it. And I'll be honest, it was the easiest thing I've ever done. But it was fun. I had a great time, met a lot of great people. But I was so used to doing so much, managing people, managing money, drugs, evidence, carrying caseloads. And I had some retired officers from Twin Falls approach me and, "Have you ever thought about running for sheriff, Cliff?" And I have. And they says, "We think you'd make a great sheriff." So I thought about it. I put a committee together. I said, if I was happy with the way things are, I would have no reason to run. But as a Twin Falls County resident, I see some improvement that needs to take place. And I feel with my experience, my knowledge, my skills, and my desire, I can make this the best sheriff's office in Idaho. And you know what? I'm going to put this together, and I'll tell you, it just exploded. And I've been nearly every day since January 16th of 2015. I was in 7 parades last year. I had the booth at the fair. We're in the parade next week, the St. Patrick's Day parade. And it's just been phenomenal. I've been involved in many groups. I knew if I needed to, if I was going to get involved and learn what the concerns are, I had to get out there. So I got involved with West End Men's Association. I just came from our breakfast this morning. Phenomenal group. These men do so much for the youth in our community. I'm a member of the Castleforth Men's Club. Same thing. So much for the youth in the community. If anyone doesn't know about these organizations, I would encourage you to come visit with us, and they're just phenomenal. But it has been great for me. People thought I was crazy for announcing so early, but I want people to know who Cliff Katona is when they go in that voting booth. I wouldn't vote for someone that I don't know. So, and it's worked very well for me.
When you mentioned you wouldn't do this if you were happy with the sheriff's department, is there something that you don't feel Sheriff Carter and his approach is somehow it's failing us? I mean, are we not picking up enough drunks off the roads, or are we not solving enough burglaries? What is it that you feel that the shortcomings are?
Well, we're two individuals. We're both in law enforcement, and I'm not going to pull something out of a hat and make something up. I mean, law enforcement is law enforcement, but I believe law enforcement has to be progressive. Change is necessary. Change is constant in your job, I'm sure, in every job. And I see that things just seem to become stagnant. And my platform issues, which is on my website at cliffkatona.com, I have 8 platform issues I've listed, and I have some that are very critical. One, my number one platform, other than I'm committed to run a clean campaign. I will not do any personal attacks. I can't change the past. I'm not trying to do that. I'm only moving forward. But I want to be a visible sheriff. I believe the sheriff should be upfront and involved in the community, and go have town hall meetings and visit with these organizations. Let them know what's going on in the sheriff's office and be interested in what's going on in their life. I'm committed to bring back a one-on-one relationship with the deputy. So as a Twin Falls County resident in your area, who your deputy is. I mean, we are not a metropolitan area. We are grassroots agriculture. Everyone knows everyone here. And you may not, if you live in Twin Falls City, you may have contact with one of the city officers maybe once in a lifetime or once every several months, but with the county, it's a little different. You have, like, take for instance, Castleford or Murtaugh, Hollister, Rogerson. They depend on their local deputies. So I want to bring back that more one-on-one relationship. I feel there can be some improvement on department relationships, working cases together and sharing information, training together. I mean, we are all in it for the same reason, uh, the safety and security of our families and our children and our grandchildren. So I get a little irritated with some of the egos and the territorial boundaries. Um, I want to bring back the Youth Explore program. I'm very committed. The Youth Explore program is a great program for our youth to bring them into a leadership position because they are future leaders. And with the proper oversight, it's a great program. We have four active posts in Idaho. Bonneville County has been going since 1981, so they have good oversight. They're doing something correct. Those kids do multiple things. They do Halloween patrol, they do marine patrol. We're soon to have a fifth one post in Mountain Home, I believe, is starting up one. But there are over 5,000 posts across the country. They're in District of Columbia, Canada, Mexico, over 33,000 youth explorers, and about 6,000 or more adult volunteers. I know at least four adults who were in the Youth Explore program, and they tell me I'm where I'm at today because of that program. So what I would like to do is I would like to offer these youth, it's 14 to 21, offer them a scholarship program through CSI Law Enforcement based on their involvement in the program, based on their own school academics, based on their involvement in their community. Since they are future leaders, do they go down? Do they read to the fourth and fifth graders? Do they help out the Boys and Girls Club? And then I want to share those youth explorers with like Kimberly City, Buell. They have Buell Sagebrush Days. Hey, do you need my youth explorers to come out and help? So they get some exposure to not only county work but also city work. And I've spoken with some chiefs around here, and they like that idea. And then I want to go one step beyond. Since it's only for 14 through 21, I would like to start a junior youth explorer program. Kids 10, 11, 12, 13-year-olds, give them a t-shirt, let them help with car washes, and let my youth explorers mentor the junior youth explorers because they're the next generation coming up. It was very disheartening when I worked at the hospital after I retired, seeing 10, 11, 12, 15-year-olds come in there to get evaluated for suicidal thoughts. And I'm a board member with a Suicide Prevention Action Network. And when we go and speak to high school students, the number one thing we hear is when they contemplate suicide, it's because I'm bored. I have nothing to do. So I want to involve our youth. I've always been involved in youth. I do a rodeo school in Buell every year, and I just love working with the youth. They are future leaders, so we need to get them involved.
I think we have a telephone caller with us, and caller is looking to have a question with Cliff Katona, who's a candidate for Twin Falls County Sheriff, one of the two Republicans involved in the primary in May. It's 9:15. It's 46. And caller, you're up next on KLIX.
Good morning, Cliff.
Good morning, sir.
I have a couple quick questions, probably a couple things that might be on the minds of a lot of people. Your stance on constitutional carry, and I would also like to know how you would have handled the Malheur type event over in Oregon, and specifically how you would have interacted with the feds. Thank you.
That's a good question. Thank you. Um, I can tell you first and foremost, I will be a constitutional sheriff. I joined the military when I was 18 years old. Got in law enforcement when I was 25. I took an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States, and I will continue to do that. Constitutional carry, you know what? We're Idahoans, and I will uphold that amendment and give honor our citizens to carry weapons. I'm not going to be a sheriff that's going to allow someone in and take their weapons away. That will not happen. I can guarantee that. As far as the thing in Oregon, I'm not in law enforcement now. I've been retired since 2014, but and I wasn't on the ground over there, so I can only go by things I've heard or what I've seen on TV. But I've thought about this, and I've always had a good working relationship with our federal agents in the Magic Valley. We trained together, we worked together, we did marijuana eradications. I trained them and with our office on locating meth labs in the South Hills. So I've always had a good relationship with them. So I was thinking about this the other day and thought, okay, if that happened and I was there in Oregon, okay, it's obvious that these people were upset. But I think the sheriff should go in there, and I'm not second guessing what the sheriff did. I'm just telling you what my thoughts would be. I would go in there and I would say, okay, I understand what you're trying to do here, but think about this. The federal government has deemed this father and son terrorists for burning sagebrush. Think about what they're going to view on you for coming in here, basically taking this building hostage that's federal property, and you have weapons. Now, I understand and I can sympathize with what you're trying to do, but let's do this the right way. I know the court process is a long process and it's going to take a while, but that's the way you have to approach it, or someone's going to get hurt. Someone's going to point guns at each other, and ultimately, we know what the result was on that. And let them know you are disrupting our community. Our citizens do not want you here. So I'm asking you to leave. And I certainly wouldn't have let any other supporters come in there because they brought in weapons, they brought in women there, and I believe there were some children in there. So that just multiplied the situation. But I think as a sheriff, I would have taken a stance and attacked that right from the beginning. And like I say, the sheriff over there may have tried to do that. I don't know. And I looked at the thing in Nevada too, and I was informed that the sheriff knew the rancher. So when the federal agents show up, um, the sheriff, under the 10th Amendment, has more power in his county than the President of the United States. The sheriff can tell the federal agents, leave. I know these people. I will deal with this. So he has that option to do that. I mean, I'm all about cooperation, but let's not let something escalate if it doesn't have to do that. So, and I hope that answered your three questions, sir.
We got about a minute left in this segment, and Cliff Katona is joining us in the studio. I've got a question for you, and your treasurer said I could rough you up this morning, and I've only ever heard one criticism, in fact, which I'll bring up in the next segment of the program, and it's not a personal criticism either, but no one has any problem that I've talked to with your past in law enforcement, so that speaks well in your favor. But before we get to this first break, for people out there who are listening, your contact information, your website, and the like.
Yes, I have. Actually, I have two Facebooks. According to Facebook, you have to have the personal one to have the official one. So I have both of those. I have my website, cliffkatona.com, and you can link that to right to my official website. I have a lot of. I have my 8 platform issues on there. I have some photos, and I sit down every Sunday evening and do a weekly campaign update, and that gets posted on both my Facebooks as well as my website, and so people can see what I'm doing. And I have them archived too. So if you don't catch it that Sunday or Monday, you can catch it later.
We've got more coming up with Cliff Katona in just a few minutes. As we mentioned earlier, he is challenging incumbent Sheriff Tom Carter in a Republican primary that's coming up on May 17th. And frankly, the Republican is likely the next sheriff. We'll leave that up to the Democrats to see if they can come up with some answer. Our studio guest is Cliff Katona. He is running for Twin Falls County Sheriff. He is in a primary. Primary day to clear up the confusion, primary day, we had a presidential primary, but on the state level for offices local and state, that's May 17th. And he's challenging the incumbent Tom Carter in the Republican Party. There is no Democrat yet who has announced. It is, call it 924. Bill Colley with you as well on Top Story on News Radio 1310, KLIX, newsradio1310.com, and it's 46. So when you decided to run, I was talking to some people in law enforcement, and they said great things about you, but I said, at the same time, we had an opening for chief of police in Twin Falls, and I said, now here's a guy who would be a shoo-in for that, in my view, a natural fit. And somebody said to me, well, yes, but then you would have to put on pause your retirement from the state police, whereas if you were elected sheriff, you get both. You get a salary and your retirement. So the question is that true, and did that influence that decision?
When I first got into this, and I checked on that with Percy, because I am under Percy, and elected officials are exempt. So I will be exempt from that. I have a couple options. I can take a sabbatical from my Percy, or I can continue to take that on top of the sheriff's salary. Um, I haven't decided what I'm going to do with that yet or not, but I didn't get into this for the money. I didn't. Sheriffs by legislation are only required to work so many years or so many days a year, but this is a desire that I have, that I want to do that. So, and I'm not ashamed to tell people. I mean, I set myself up for retirement. We don't live in a big house. I have a small 3-bedroom, 2-bath It's nearly paid for. My vehicles are paid for. My salary, and I'm not ashamed to say it, with Percy after taxes is $27.80 a month. So I mean, I don't live by my means, but I set myself up for this. But again, I didn't get into this for the money. I did this because I have a desire to continue to serve.
There's my tough question, and as treasurer said I could ask one today. So you've also got a fundraiser coming up.
I do. March 19th, Saturday, week from tomorrow. And it's going to be at Canyon Crest. We're going to have a social hour from 6 to 7 and then dinner at 7. Canyon Crest is doing a tri-tip buffet with chicken also. And we are going to have guest speakers there. I have some local entertainment. Gina Jones, who was from the Brule area. She made it big in Nashville, singer-songwriter. She's going to come and do the entertainment. We'll have some silent auction items there. I have a couple speakers lined up. I have Leah that owns Ooh La La Boutique, and she's selling tickets there too, by the way. And Chief Petty Officer Tony Lee. She had served in Afghanistan, Guantanamo Bay, just a fabulous lady. She's going to speak. And of course, I'll speak for a little bit. But, I'm trying to been very conservative in my campaign funds. I've used a lot of my own money, and advertising is not cheap. I'm sure you're aware of that. But
Keeps me working,
yeah.
but sure.
But if someone wants to come, tickets are 50 each or 2 for 90. And Kurt's Pharmacy is also selling them, and as well as Canyon Crest. And you can also get them on my website under the donate page. But if someone doesn't want to come and have dinner, they're certainly welcome to come free of charge to listen to the speakers and listen to me, and just so I can get to meet them. But it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Got about 2 minutes left, so we'll see if we can't squeeze in one last telephone caller. You've got to make the question quick, and then we'll give the candidate an opportunity to answer. You're on the air. Go ahead.
I would like to ask Mr. Katona who he voted for sheriff in the last couple of elections and why.
I can be honest with you. In the last election, I did not vote because I just wasn't comfortable with either one, and I know that's a cop out. I probably shouldn't have done that. And prior to that, I did vote for Sheriff Towsley. I know he was in there for about 12 years. Had a good working relationship with Sheriff Towsley when I worked for the state police. I had no personal issues with him, and I felt that he was doing the best job that he could with what he had, and so I supported him.
I want to point out too, when you mentioned that you didn't vote in that election, that probably might tell us a lot about why you're running now. If you weren't happy with either candidate, obviously you decided, well, maybe I'm the guy.
When I worked for the state police, my job was to serve the citizens of Idaho. Yes, I worked for the governor. And, for 4 years, we may have a Democrat as a boss, and the next 4 years we have Republican, and that trickles down. Administration changes, management changes. So as a state police employee, and the last 19 years of my 22 career with him was a detective, I just went down the middle of the road. My job was to serve the citizens of Idaho, and I'm going to do that as sheriff, serve the citizens of Twin Falls County, whether they vote for me or not. Whether they and I probably, I look back now and I think, you know what, I probably should have, but I think all those years I went down that middle of that road and I didn't choose a side because I really couldn't publicly by being a state employee. Yes, I could have voted, but I just at the time was not comfortable with both candidates. And I did the thing that I tell people not to do. So please, at least go vote. And I learned from that. I should have went in and voted for someone, but at the time I just didn't feel comfortable with it.
Very quickly, we got to wrap up, but your website again.
www.cliffkatona.com, and that's Katona.
On your business cards too, as well. I've got one still on my desk from about a year ago.
Yes, and I open to phone calls, emails, text messages. Anybody can call me personally. I want to have a good relationship with Twin Falls County residents, and please, you can call and yell at me or ask me any questions, and I'd love to talk to you.
We'll talk to you again soon too, as well.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate it.
Cliff Katona joining us in the studio. It's coming up on 9:30. It's 48. And we've got more coming up. In fact, I wanted to share with you a story out of Sweden about difficulty trying to assimilate some of the new refugees there. That's on the way in the next half hour, right here on KLIX.